Okay, I'm going to do a quick recap of ellipses here, and you can fill this in on your graphic organizer, your Conic organizer. And so the ellipse is a set of all coplanar points such that the sum of the distances from two fixed points called the foci is a constant, so that's important. So this is going to be our horizontal ellipse, and that just basically means it has a horizontal major axis. This is our vertical ellipse, meaning that it has a vertical major axis, which just means it's longer. Okay. Now a couple of things. The endpoints of the major axes are going to be your vertices, so they sort of change locations, and it'll be up there. And then the endpoints of your minor axes are going to be your co-vertices, so co-vertices. So just make sure you know that information. And the center is always H, K for both of these. And the length of the major axis is 2a in both cases. Now, there's a little thing. There's two different ways you could teach this. We have decided to teach it where a squared is always bigger than b squared, no matter what. So a squared is bigger than b squared. Basically meaning that the a squared moves around. But don't worry about it. It's really easy to apply. But a squared is always bigger than b squared in both cases. So if the larger one is with x, it's horizontal, and it'd be the larger denominator would be a squared. If the larger denominator is with the y, it'd be vertical, and then your a squared would be under y. So it just kind of moves around. So the length of the minor axis is always the shorter one. So let me kind of put this in up here. So these would be b here, a here. This would be b here, a here. So a is basically what would be called a semi-major axis. B would be a semi-minor axis. Okay? Now the focus points are always going to be on the major axis, both places. So that's important to know. So on the major axis. And it's c units from the center. Okay? So I'll tell you how to find c in just a minute. But here, if it's a horizontal, it's going to be your h plus and minus c comma k. Here, if it's vertical, I have to add to the y and subtract from the y. So here, it's h and then k plus and minus c. So that is how you would do those. Okay? Now, same thing for the vertices. They sort of switch. So for the horizontal, I have to add to the x, go left and right. So it's going to be h plus and minus a comma k. Here, because I'm going up and down, it's going to be h and then k plus and minus a. So you're adding and subtracting to go up and down because it's a vertical ellipse. The co-vertices are going to flip, obviously. So you have h and then k plus and minus b. And here you have, because we're trying to go to the right and to the left, the distance of b, here it'd be h plus and minus b comma k. And the major axes, the minor axis are centered at the center, obviously. Okay? So the center can be found by looking at the midpoint of the major axis, the minor axis, or the midpoint between the vertices. And I'm pairing this up here because it's kind of the same information. Or the midpoint between the co-vertices, or the midpoint between your two focus points. It's also the midpoint between your two focus points. It's the center of everything. And I think that pretty much does it. Just remember a squared is larger than b squared. So this is really the equation for this ellipse. So let me kind of show you what the other one would look like. It's the same thing, but it'd be x minus h squared now over b squared, because this is a smaller movement. And then it would be plus y minus k squared over a squared is equal to 1. The biggest takeaway is this. Don't worry about whether it's a or b, or a squared or b squared. The larger denominator, wherever that is, will elongate it in the direction of its numerator. So if the larger denominator is with y, it elongates in y's direction. If the larger denominator is with x, it elongates in the x direction, changing how it's elongated. So that should pretty much do it for you, and finish both reviews. The last one is optional, of course, but the key is online. But please take it as serious practice because it is kind of similar to what you might see on the quiz. And y'all have a great night.